city peace in our land.
Ikwezizwe wase-Afrika, nansi i-African Transformation Movement. Sondelani isizwe saseMzantsi Afrika. Nanku umuntu woxolo uzoguqula isizwe selizwe.
Servants! 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 One God! One human rights! Peace in our land!
Umeve mhlophe uProfessor Sizanongqunga. Let me also take this moment greet imboni yakwantu uBhungane uTata uRhadebe. Let me greet the Council of Elders of the ATM, greet the royal leadership, ikumkani nenkosi ezikhoyo namhlanje, greet all of the spiritual and faith leadership ezikhoyo. A special greetings to the parties that are here in support of this rally in Johannesburg. I want to greet again all of the structures of the ATM. Nani South Africans nibukele ku Facebook, ku YouTube, nazo zonke platforms ndiyanibulisa. But most importantly, I want to greet the most important people, the servants of the peace movement. Servants. Servants. We need to build a capable state in our country. Because if you look at South Africa, the state is failing in our country. That is why you find you have ogogo bethu having to sleep outside post offices because they want grants. It is because of the failure of the state. If you look at all of the things that are going wrong in our country, they paint to one clear picture. The state is failing to govern. That is why, as our priority as the ATM, it is to build a capable state. What does a capable state look like for us as the ATM? Number one is that the state must play a critical role in creating a good quality of life for the citizens. We don't agree with this thing in South Africa, whereby the functions of the state are being privatized. South Africa can never belong to the private sector. The private sector can never be given a responsibility of creating a good quality of life. It is the state that must play that role of creating a good quality of life. Furthermore, there must be a timeless and dependable grant system. We can't have grants esizosifumana namhlanje ngomso zingafumaneki. And grants must zinyuke to reflect the needs of our people. There must be investment in road and rail infrastructure so that we are able to move around as a people and the goods in our country are able to be moved around. But critically, we must make sure ukuba SOEs, the state-owned enterprises, are supported to make sure that they succeed. There's this thing in our country whereby people are made to believe ukuba the SOEs are failing. There's SOEs that are serving the white minority. Your land bank, your PIC, those SOEs are functioning well. No one is saying those SOEs must be privatized. However, the SOEs that are serving the majority of our people, such as ESCOM or Post Office, were made to believe ukuba they are dysfunctional, therefore they must be privatized. There is a clear program of ensuring that these SOEs that are serving the masses of our people are made to be destroyed, and we don't agree with that as the ATM. We believe there is enough capacity and there is enough resources for all of these SOEs to be in the hands of the state so that the state is able to play a critical role in serving the people. We are equally saying as the ATM, there needs to be quality healthcare for everyone. There can't be a case whereby if you are rich, you are wealthy, you are going to get exceptional healthcare. But if you are poor, you are not going to get quality healthcare. We are equally saying, makukashwe all of the environmental health practitioners. We've got a problem of fake foods that are killing our children. People in our country are being poisoned deliberately by these fake foods. And the people in our country need to know there are environmental health practitioners that are qualified to ensure that whatever that is being eaten and sold to our people, it is of good quality. That is why we are saying, let the government employ all environmental health practitioners so that there is no establishment, whether it is a big retailer or it is a spaza shop, there must be no establishment that will sell fake, expired or rejected foods to our people. We are equally saying traditional healers, nezangoma, must be given a space to operate and practice kwindawo zabo ezihlonitshiweyo, such as the rivers and the mountains. We need to fight for traditional healers nezangoma because they are authentic Africans. It cannot be that isangoma, when sifunu practice, they need to go to a Western institution to ask for permission. That is why we are saying that the current interim council under the Act 22 of 2007 must be appointed permanently, so that izangoma must be guided zezinye izangoma. Traditional healers must be regulated zezinye traditional healers. Also, we are saying that the royal and faith leaders must be given a responsibility and a meaningful role to contribute towards the shaping of the moral character of our country. Currently, we need to know if we are going to have a country that lacks respect for the elders, lacks discipline, that is not who we are as Africans. That is why we need amakhosi, we need abantu benkolo, bakhe kwakhiwe umntu. Because ukuba akwakhiwa abantu eSouth Africa, sizoba nezilwanyana. Izilwanyana zezu uzibona eSouth Africa, ube nentwana ena 18 years, ibone ogogo abadala ba ingabadlwengula. It is because kugcwele izilwanyana. Kufuneka kubuyiswe ubuntu ebantwini. Kuba umntu ngumntu ngabantu. We need to regulate the digital industry, such as Uber and the Bolt, because when these companies coming from these European countries or America, when they come to South Africa, they undermine our people, they undermine our national interest. However, when they operate in Europe, they respect them. Bolt and Uber, when it is operating in Europe, it recognizes the drivers as employees. And when a driver is in an accident, Uber is there to assist the driver. But in our country, we've got our brothers and sisters that are driving Ubers and Bolts. Whenever there's an accident, uBolt akangeni indawo, uUber akangeni indawo. And we also have a problem with these institutions that are going to come in our country, violate our immigration and labor laws by employing or allowing abantu who are not providing a scarce and critical skills to drive Uber or Bolt. Surely, servants, if South Africa has got the highest unemployment rate, therefore it cannot be acceptable that a person will come from outside of South Africa azoqhuba Uber apha. We've got so many young people that should be occupying that space instead of that space being taken by people coming outside of the country. We also say there needs to be a regulation of the film and television industry so that we do not allow what is happening now, whereby our brothers in that sector are being exploited. And when they're exploited, they've got no one to run to because there's no regulation. The producers in that sector are having so much power. That is why they're easily exploiting our people. We are also equally saying there needs to be educational content on our TV screens. We can't watch TV, go 8 ebusuku. More often than not, we are going to see crime, we are going to see drugs, we are going to see sex, we are going to see zonke ezizinto. What happened to those shows that were educating our people? Back in the day, there was also City that were educating people about a problem at the time, which was HIV and AIDS. Currently, we've got a problem of teenage pregnancies, of alcohol and drug abuse, mental health, but our content on TV is not playing its part by educating our people on those problems. As the ATM, we want to be very clear. Ukuba, we will govern this country. What do we mean by governing this country? It is because the ANC is in government, but it is not governing. The ANC iphethwe. That is why you find ukuba they do not have any solutions to the problems we face in our country. That is why you find that the private sector ngesixhosa iyasidalela yenza unothanda. But under the ATM government, the private sector will be under the control and the governance of the ATM. Under the ATM government, we are going to make sure that we are going to hold these banks accountable for rand manipulation. We can't allow our banking sector to go unregulated and operate with impunity. You have a banking sector whereby ukuba umnyama, you are going to be charged higher interest rates, but if umhlophe, you are going to be charged lower interest rates. We can't allow a private sector or the banking sector manipulate the rand and in effect make sure that our people live in perpetual slavery of debt. That is why as the ATM, we are going to ensure ukuba those banks must be held accountable. On the question of the economy, we need to be very clear, servants. We've got a problem of poverty, unemployment, and inequality in our country. Therefore, our solutions are tailored to address those critical problems. That is why as the ATM, our priority is to ensure that there is a mass economic participation of our citizens. We can't live in a country with high such levels of unemployment and poverty. That is why we are saying that the economy must be transformed, because the economy, even during the times of apartheid, it was designed for a selected few people. That is even why even today, the economy, it is benefiting very few individuals. We've got few families in our country that are dominating all economic activities. When you wake up in the morning, by the time you brush your teeth, you have already made money for the Ruperts and the Oppenheimers. When you go to work, you've already made the money. By the time you have lunch, you've already made the money. We're saying as the ATM, we need to transform the economy so that the economy of our country is not in the hands of a few families, but it must be in the hands of South Africans. And the way to do that is that we are going to dismantle the oligopolies and monopolies in our country so that we've got diverse players in the economy. For Umtongaziyo, look at all of the sectors in our country. In the banking industry, there is between 5 and 10 banks that are dominating. Go to the financial services industry, it is the same thing. Go to the telecommunications industry, it is the same thing. Virtually all industries in our country are under the control of companies that are less than 10. That is why, Tina, as the ATM, we're saying to change all of that, 50% of government spending must go to SMMEs. Because currently the state is spending more than 80% of its budget on big business. That is why xa ungena e-airport, uzoba ngathi ungena e-Bidvest, yonke into e-airport yenziwa yi-Bidvest. Now, we are not a country e-Bidvest, shareholders e-Bidvest. That is why we are opposing this dominance of the economy by these few companies. We're also saying as a party that there needs to be local processing of our minerals. It cannot be that we live in a country whereby there's so much gold, there's so much diamonds, there's so much mineral wealth in our country, but asikwazi ukuziprocessa. We've got so many young people with skills, but they are not skilled to process our minerals. Our minerals are taken as raw as they are to all of these European countries, and they are sold back to us at very high prices. We're saying as the ATM, the mineral wealth of our country belongs to us as South Africans. When you go to Dubai, when you go to the Middle East, they've got oil. Who does that oil benefit? Abantu balamazwe. But how is it that in our country, when you go to Mpumalanga, you find poverty, disease, and sickness? You don't see ukuba abantu basempumalanga are benefiting from the mineral wealth of coal in that province. We must not accept that we are going to be poor, we are going to be sick as a result of these minerals. However, Americans and Europeans are going to be rich and wealthy, whereas Tina, we are going to be poor and sick by these minerals. We are saying again, ukuba the government contracts under 10 million must be set aside for SMMEs. We can't allow big businesses to dominate the government spending. That is why you are clear to say, under the ATM government, there is going to be a law that is setting aside all of the government contracts under 10 million to be set aside for SMMEs. We are going to again advocate that the PIC invests in production or manufacturing-driven initiatives. Because currently, EPIC is spending a lot of money investing in consumer-driven initiatives. That is why abantu are going to see a mall being built, but celebrate. Whereas, Tina, we want the PIC to fund the opening of factories. Because we believe, ukuba, we need a country whereby we consume what we produce. That is why under the ATM government, we are going to open and build factories all across the districts in our country, so that whatever is consumed in those different districts is produced in those districts. We are going to ensure, ukuba, there is a local production of basic goods in our country. We can't be importing soap, import amakhandlela, import toothpicks, to an extent whereby everything we eat, everything that we wear, everything that is made in other countries. As the ATM government, East South Africa is not going to be made in China country. Under the ATM government, most products in South Africa will be made in South Africa. That is how you create jobs. You build factories, you manufacture in that country. That is how you create jobs. We are going to ensure ukuba South Africa iyeke ku-importa izinto that it is able to produce. South Africa is importing umbrella, it is importing sneakers, it is importing a lot of things that we've got the capabilities to produce. Again, we are saying that the township economy needs to be transformed so that it becomes a distribution channel for all of these locally produced goods. And we are going to restore the township and village economy, because it is an anomaly, servants, that you go to the township economy. More than 90% of all businesses in those townships are not operated by South Africans. That is something that is an anomaly, because we want a state in our country whereby South Africans are able to enjoy the economy. They can never be able to enjoy the economy ukuba they are not active participants in the economy. And we're also saying that companies must only employ non-South Africans for scarce and critical skills, because these companies are greedy, because they take people outside of the country because they want to pay them slave wages. And by doing so, they create tensions and conflict, because they offload South Africans in order to employ non-South Africans. We're saying, Tina, as the ATM, we're going to empower the labor inspectors so that the labor inspectors are able to go to each and every of these companies to make sure that there is no company that is violating immigration and labor laws. And these companies that are violating these laws, they are going to be fined heavily, and we are going to revoke their licenses. We've got a company here called Ihuway. It was given a contract in our country. When this company was operating, it was found ukuba 100% of the staff in that company is not South African. Linyala elo that you can go to a company and find no South African. That is why we are saying, Tina, kakeni voteli ATM, ipati eyaziyo power of holding the private sector accountable. On the question of load shedding, people, we do not have a problem of load shedding in our country. The only problem we have leaders in our country that want to profit from your suffering as a people. That is why they deliberately sabotage the ESCOM. That is why they deliberately make it as if there's a problem of power in our country. In our country, we've got power stations that are using coal, and we've got more than 400 years of coal in our country. But the problem is that these power stations are not operating optimally. Uzwe power station, and you find that it has got 10 units, but out of those 10 units, only 2 units are working. Now, instead of the government making sure that they service the 8 that is not working, they are saying we need to move away from coal. We are saying as the ATM, there needs to be an investment in servicing and maintaining the power stations, because power stations need to be maintained ukuze zikwazi ukusebenza. Thus, the power stations, it is going to be able to generate electricity for everyone. You need to ask yourself, servants, how is it that South Africa is producing or supplying electricity to neighboring countries and they don't have load shedding, but up in South Africa, there's load shedding? So, you reject any into that is making you to think ESCOM is going to be better off in the hands of the private sector. The private sector is only interested in profits. ATM was saying, because South Africa is a developing country, you need the state to play a dominant role in the provision of services to our people. And we're saying that under the ATM government, we're going to cancel all of the evergreen contracts that are milking our SOEs. Currently, you've got contracts in Pago Eskom whereby e-coal is sold to Eskom at more than 1,000 rands per ton. But if you look at the NESA recommended prices, Eskom is supposed to be buying at 300 rands. It means we've got many companies that have inflated their prices to Eskom. That is why Eskom kumane kusitwa mayinikezwe bailouts. So Tina, we are going to repeal and cancel all of those contracts. Under education, we are going to make sure, servants, ukuba, when you go to a public school, you need to know, you need to feel ukuba you are in an environment of learning. That is why we are going to invest heavily in school infrastructure and early childhood development. And we are going to bring about a skills-based education system so that by the time a person reaches matric, by the time a person leaves matric, they've got a skill they can utilize in order to make a living. And this education system must be anchored on our mineral wealth. I once went, DSG, to a rally in the Northwest. Northwest, there's a lot of mines there. I asked the people, have you ever seen gold? They said no. Have you ever seen diamond? They said no. People in our country, they need to know, ukuba, this is the mineral wealth of our country. You find that in our country, we've got all of the mineral wealth, but ifihliwe ezingqondweni zethu because we are made to believe okanye kufuneka ibe ngathi yethu. That is why education system in ngokunokwethu as the ATM must be anchored on our mineral wealth. And we are going to train job creators instead of job seekers. We want as a country ukuba young people, workers in our country, bonke abantu must be able to create jobs instead of ukuba bebe job seekers. And we are going to invest in sports, arts and culture, especially in our public schools. Because in our public schools, investment, there is no sports or arts and culture programs. And we need to know ukuba bakhona abantu that can best uplift their lives through education. Babe khona abarelaya on sports, arts and culture. So the training ekoyo ezikolweni must be able to give young people who are talented in sports an opportunity to excel in those sports. And we are going to bring about a corruption-free NEFSAS. And we don't agree with what the government is doing, whereby on the question of NEFSAS, it is taking the responsibility of distributing state funds to third parties. And we are going to close down all of these bogus colleges and schools. We've got a problem of schools in our country, or these bogus colleges. A person ovela emkanduli okanye kuqoboqobo uzoza okanye Mount Freya uzoza eGoli kube ufuna ufunde college, afike apha afunde noba yi3 weeks kuthiwe zivaliwe izikolo, athi xa ibuya esasikolo sakhe yisaluni. It is because of these bogus colleges. That is why we need to deal with those bogus colleges decisively. And we are going to bring about a free tertiary education. Young people, you need to know ukuba education is an investment, not a liability. So when we bring about a free tertiary education, it is because we are investing in the future of our country. And we are not going to compromise on the question of education. On the question of agriculture, very clear, servants, we are saying we want a farming revolution. By a farming revolution, we are saying one household, one farm. One household, one farm. One household, one farm. One household, one farm. We can't have a food security that is anchored or dependent on few farmers. We need a food security in our country that is dependent on citizens themselves. That is why we need to invest in farming to ensure ukuba 50% of the produce in each and every of these retailers, it is not sourced from big farmers, but it is sourced from emerging farmers. Because we've got so many emerging farmers in our country, but into abazithengisayo okanye abazilimayo do not get space. We are going to make it a law, servants, ukuba if we have a shop eBosabelo in Free State, whether it is ShopRite or Pick and Pay or whatnot, 50% of the produce in that retailer must come from the farmers in Botshabelo. On the question of human settlements, we are saying that there needs to be expropriation of land without compensation. Umhlaba zangathengwe, umhlaba zangacelwe, umhlaba kwabulawa ikumkani zethu. Kumhlaba kwabulawa abalaphi bendabuko. That is why we must never negotiate on the question of the injustice of a land dispossession. That is why we are saying land expropriation without compensation. And we are going to expropriate all of the hijacked, deserted buildings, especially in the CBDs, to make sure ukuba we don't have buildings in the CBDs. Apo, they are used for drugs, they are used for forced prosecution, they are used for all of these crimes. We are going to make sure ukuba the inner city buildings are transformed to provide world-class living facilities for students as well as the working class. Because we need to correct what apartheid did wrong. What apartheid did wrong, servants, it took abantu away from the places of economic activity. That is why you find umntu uzohlala ngapha eHarankuwa okanye Hammanskraal. They need to spend 2 hours on the road xa besiya emsebenzini. It is because i-apartheid yathatha abantu bakuthi yababeka very far from places of economic activity. We're saying thina as the ATM, the places in the inner city must be expropriated and they must be transformed to provide world-class living facilities. And we are going to ensure ukuba we are going to build libraries, skills and arts development centers in the townships. Because currently, servants, xa ungena in a township, you are most likely to see a tavern than a library. You are most likely to see smokolo than an arts development center. Into that is there in the minds of our children. It is alcohol, it is drugs, it is izinto ezingalunganga. That is why we need to invest in building arts and culture facilities in those townships. On the question of law and order, servants, we want to say as the ATM, under the ATM government, if you even think about being a criminal, rest assured your days are numbered. Under the ATM government, we are not going to be playing sweetheart with criminals. We are not going to be seeing a criminal and we say, baby, come to prison, baby. You've got 3 meals a day, baby. You've got free DSTV, baby. You've got water and electricity, baby. Under the ATM government, a criminal will be afraid to think ukuba they can succeed as a criminal. We are going to empower the police. Ukuba number 1, when your life is under threat by a criminal, do not shoot the legs. Oh, dubule phezulu. Cima lonto. Criminals deserve no mercy. We can't be wanting to be politically correct on abantu that are terrorizing us. We can't be thinking about human rights for criminals. A person who does not respect the human rights of others kufuneka kucingelwe zakhe human rights. Apha Soweto, abantu were having fun. Kwangeni criminals, they killed more than 10 people in one sitting. Up until this day, there's never been justice for those criminals. In Russia, just recently, there's some terrorists and criminals who went and shot at abantu. Ngoku, those criminals are paying for what they were doing. That is why you find ukuba those criminals in Russia, they will think twice about committing crimes or terrorist activities in Russia. But come to South Africa, a criminal kuthiwa baby. Sithi kulonto unoche. That is why we are going to employ all police reservists. We've got so many police reservists that are trained in our country. And we are going to train all of these policemen to make sure ukuba they don't bundle cases and there's a higher rate of convictions. And we are going to support the community policing forums, because if you look at the policing forums, they are playing so much, adding so much value in the fight against crime. And we are going to deploy special task forces to deal with illegal mining. This question of protection fees, you go to some towns, once ube nemoto, kuzofika ezinswela boya apha kuwe, zithi sayibona MMC le moto yakho, besicela just insurance ye 5,000 so that imoto yakho ihlale safe. If you want to operate and run a business, kukho abantu abazofika bathi hayi siyabulela uba unayo ibusiness oyifumeneyo, sicela 30% izapha kuthi. This question of protection fees, we need to deal with it, and we need to deal with it decisively. That is why we want to deploy all of these special task forces. And we are going to deploy them specifically to KZN and Mpumalanga, whereby there is this killing of traditional leaders. We can't allow a case whereby ikumkani nenkosi zethu zibulalwe for the fact that bezikumkani nenkosi. We are going to deal with such criminals. And we are saying ukuba the law needs to change. There needs to be a life sentence without the possibility of a parole for all of these drug and human traffickers. Even these policemen that are corrupt, if you are a policeman, you are corrupt, under the ATM government, sizodila nawe. Because you are given a responsibility of protecting our people, where now you are in the pockets of drug dealers. Instead of protecting citizens against drug dealers, we are protecting drug dealers from the system. And we are going to ensure ukuba all of these immigration officers and public officers are corrupt. We are going to make sure ukuba they are given life sentences without the possibility of a parole. And we are going to make sure, servants, ukuba we've got a stronger border management. Because once you have loose or porous borders, you are enabling e-crime. That is why you find ukuba a lot of vehicles in Gauteng that are hijacked, that are taken over to other countries. That is why you find ukuba the explosives that are used to commit illegal mining, they are coming from other countries. That is why you find ukuba the guns that were used to kill our people in Soweto, they are also coming from other countries. Now, we want a stronger border management so that there is legal movement of people. Currently, sinabantwana abathinjwayo in our country, awubazi nobazi babaphi na, because they could be trafficked to other countries. Our sisters can't even enjoy themselves because some of them, they are trafficked to other countries and they are made to be prostitutes in those countries. And all of that is facilitated by porous borders. You've got people that will come from other countries, commit crime in our country, they go back to other countries without being held accountable. That is why we are not shaken on the question ukuba we need to deal with all forms of criminality. And we want heavy sentences for all of these people that are selling these fake foods. We can't allow South Africans to be poisoned by fake foods. We can't allow drug dealers to operate with impunity in our country. I-drug dealer befanba community ke niqale nincokole nayo. Nixa nigqiba uncokola nayo nise emapoliseni. Amapolisa ayise yona kumantyi, umantyi athi life sentence udilika jele. Because once kube khona drugs and you've got a lot of people that are in drugs, you are destroying a future yelilize. That is why when we are dealing with the question of drugs, we are protecting the future of our country. That is why, servants, we are making no apology on the question of ukuba we are going to deal decisively with drug dealers. Each and every week in our country, amapolisa are going to do raids to make sure ukuba these drug dealers are dealt with. Noba ke bafikile kwi-drug dealers, baqale bazithathe drugs. If uthi ayizo drugs, makakazitye yena, approve ukuba izo drugs. And we are making again no apology on the question of the death penalty. The death penalty is going to be a reality under the ATM government. Because under the ATM government, we are not going to protect people who do not respect the right to life of others. Because these people that killed our brothers, not Atabetu, in a tavern up at Soweto, that is a heinous killing that should be met with a death penalty. If you look in the neighboring country, just above Botswana, they've got a death penalty. No one is complaining about criminals. East South Africa is seemingly a safe haven for criminals because our laws are saying baby to a criminal. Under the ATM, if you are a criminal, rest assured, umthetho uzothi nja. Seventh, we want to conclude by saying, people of South Africa, they tried to destroy you. They tried to say you are lazy. They tried to say you are uneducated. And they tried excluding you from the economy. And I want to assure you, they will never break you. Because you as South Africans, let it be clear, you are the descendants of Steve Bantu Bonke Biko. You are the descendants of Winnie Mandela. You are the descendants of Jim Scott Ndlovu. You are the descendants of Nsikana. You are the descendants of Ufunele. You are the descendants of David Siku Somthi Phakathi. You are the descendants Ngonyama Ulanga Libalele. You are the descendants of Uyinsa Kakauta. You are the descendants of Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe. You are the descendants of Chris Ani. And all of these people were Abantu who fought for our country, died fighting for our country. And we need to equally emulate Abantu esize emva kwabo. Because oba wamkhulu bethu ngabo that fought for this country. We also have a responsibility of fighting for the next generation. And those resilient heroes who died fighting for our country, let their death not be in vain. That is why we need to equally fight for the future of our country. There is no one, servants, that is coming from another country to rescue us. There is no one that is going to come from a Matuneni and rescue our country. People that are going to rescue our country, it is us as South Africans. So let it be known, servants, ukuba we've got a responsibility of creating a brighter future for our children. So i-29 ka May it is a matter of life and death in our country. Ukuba, this government, Yamahoti, continues to be in government, South Africa is going to die. So that is why we need to approach these elections knowing, servants, 29 May is a matter of life and death. We must choose life for our country by voting ATM. Let us fight, servants, so that South Africa can live. Let us fight to safeguard the future of our country. Servants, I want to make sure, I want to driller inside lento kuni. Ukuba, you need to be spiritually grounded as a servant. Because when you are spiritually grounded as a servant, you are going to have a conscience. Nizoba nabo ubuntu. Abantu are spiritually grounded. They know ukuba we are servants of the people. People who are not spiritually grounded, when they see power, they want to accumulate power for themselves, not about the people. Let it be known, servants, ukuba, when you are spiritually grounded, we are going to love one another. When we love one another, we are going to love our citizens. When we love our citizens, we are going to make sure that we do each and everything in the best interest of our people. In our country, the citizens have come last for a very long time. Now is the time for South Africans to come first. That is why, by being spiritually grounded, we are going to have a new culture, a new character of leadership, a leadership that is spiritually driven, a leadership ebeka abantu phambi. And we are saying, servants, let it be known, ukuba, this is the year we are going to reclaim our country. This is the year bazobona ukuba we've got power as a citizens. This is the year they must see who we are. This is the year Rikobabonsa. This is the year we must go and fight for our people. This is the year we must make sure Ukubi South Africa gets to be transformed. So let us go, servants, and campaign. Let us go, servants, into Nenjwana. Let us go, servants.
Let's go.
Simangene. Let us go, servants.
Let's go.
Let's
go. Let's go.
We are not making any
Let's go.
apology. It is not a mistake. Ukuba Sikone is the ATM. Abantu have undermined you for a very long time. Let the power of God in you reign supreme. Let it be known, servants. Ukuba, you are equal to the task. Let us go, Pambili. Pambili, servants, Pambili.
Let's go.
Pambili, servants, Pambili.
Pambili.
Kula, ATM, kula.
Cool.
Pata, ATM, pata.
Pata.
Gena, ATM, gena. Kula, ATM, kula. Pili, pili, ATM, pili, pili. Zene, zena, ATM, zena. Kulonyaka, kuvotelwa.
ATM. Power. Let's go. What? Abonga abantu bavoteni. I must have 27.